And oops, Wacom settings. Sorry, Wacom settings. Mapping to my portion. Yes, please. All right, where do we leave off? Seems like we've been working on this thing forever. Let's see if we can't wrap it up. Wrap it up. Bebop. Blockout. I hope I saved last time, actually, now that I think about it. But I'll be honest, I don't even remember. I don't even remember where I left off. I guess it looks right. Let's do a few things. First, let's pull up some reference because I don't know where I left off really. Okay, yeah, we could model those, and then also let's get some of this clothing going. Do I have a base body? Do I have a base body worthy of taking into Marvelous Designer yet? Probably not. Let me load up some other reference here. Open recent Bebop anatomy ref. There we go. Okay, so let's say, I don't need to make him super jacked, do I? I mean, he's pretty jacked. Yeah. I don't gotta go nuts with the anatomy though. But basically, what I want to do is I want to get something representative in there so that when I go and simulate clothing, not that I'm going to be doing super tight fitting t-shirts or anything. It's mostly like what anatomy is going to be shown, and then also like what cloth is going to simulate over his body and making sure that there's nothing bizarre going on, at least as far as the volumes or anything like that. So I'm just going to kind of sketch in where the muscles are going to end up going. So you've got your, oh boy, I used to teach anatomy, and it's starting to come back to haunt me that when I don't teach it, I don't retain it. I'm going to have to start just, and I used to watch anatomy videos while I would jog, and now that I don't jog anymore because I take tremendous dog walks, again, that kind of affects. Let's grab our move Acu and kind of move these out a little bit. That's another thing too, when you're going to do a claw simulations, make sure you leave yourself plenty of room in these armpits. Not that you need to go full T-pose, but it's probably a good idea. Oops. That you do a nice wide A pose. You don't want to get crunchy pits. Also, especially when you want to go through and retopologize, make your life a little bit easier. He's got a very wide stance. I think that'll work. Hey, thanks for showing up. I'm going to try to burn through some Rocksteady stuff here. Let's go to Smooth Stronger. And I may even drop this resolution just a tad. And like a lot of times what I'll end up doing, and we've talked about this before, if you want to go through and like pop these hands off into their own subtools, and we'll go ahead and go down one, and then also pop the head into its own subtool, and then you can always merge them back down, because generally what I'll do is, oh, I should have moved multiple there. Yeah, we can do that. So I'm going to go ahead and hit W. Oh, this is all one. That's not too terrible then. We'll just manually get this bad boy in place here. Was that higher up on his arm? No. Let's scale it down then. What was I saying? So I almost forgot I was streaming today. Laying in bed. It's 5:40. And I'm like, why is my alarm telling me where I need to arrive in order to get somewhere on time? And then I was like, oh no, I have to get up. And because I got to stream. Okay, so I dropped the resolution on the body here, and I left it higher. Let's go ahead and organize my subtools a little bit. So I'm going to turn all these on. Hold on, Shift, bent up arrow, Alt tap the head, bent up arrow, Shift, bent up arrow, hands, Shift, bent up arrow, and then that body one more time. So I can just turn everything off with the body and the hands. And then now I can work on the hands and the heads at separate resolutions. Usually when I work on the body, I work at a lower resolution here. Yeah, so just going through and kind of sketching in where I want these details to go and kind of pushing in just a little bit. He's fairly there. Not a whole lot that needs to go on. Let me get my trusty, this guy right here. One of these bad boys. I have one of these at work, and then I have one of these at home. The one at work is the one that's actually colored in and stuff, and I don't know that that's actually helpful. So I don't know that I would pay more money for that one, but yes, he is a big bacon boy. Um, and the other thing too is I tend to also kind of make them a little bit more pronounce the musculature more, even though he's not necessarily going to be, like I said, a super ripped guy, but just dialing in where these things are going to end up, his rib cage and his abs and stuff like that, and then I can always go back in and soften it out. But it's nice to kind of get this stuff, these forms dialed in just a little bit, and then punch it back as needed. So what else we got? We got the pectoralis major. Oh yeah, I kind of lost it on the legs here. So one reference we could talk about, this will actually help me out. We'll do a little bit of studying today. Let's go to zygotebody.com. So here's a cool reference. You can do male or female. Go ahead and keep it female, and you can go through and you can kind of go through the layers of the body. I like to do this little second bean over here, so I can go, okay, get rid of your skin, get rid of, I don't need your nervous system. I'm not doing a zombie or anything, so I can go ahead and get rid of your stomach lining and stuff like that. So we'll go ahead and keep our muscles, our bones, and our ligaments here. So here's our rectus femoris, our vastus lateralis, and vastus medialis, and you can go ahead and move these things around. You can see them. If you want to see where their attachments are, it might be a little bit easier if you go through here now with those selected and then dial these back. And now you can see, oh, those attach to the inside top of that pelvis there, and then connect down here on the patella, looks like. Very neat. And you can dial that back up. So while I'm busy struggling to remember muscle names, I can have that down here and just pretend like I know what I'm doing. So rectus femoris. And then you've got your patella right here, and then you've got your tibia right below it, and that's going to be that hard little shelf right there. And we'll go ahead and get our Damien standard brush. We'll just carve that right in there, because your calf muscle is going to be back here. And we can go ahead and take our clay brush, knock that back just a little bit. But yeah, and also following that flow, you have that nice flow from the sartorius. Let me make sure I'm sartorius goes all the way here. I think it's the longest muscle in the body, all the way down here and tucks onto the, I think, the tibia. I'm not going to look too close at that. But making sure that that kind of divides your quads from your adductors right in here. I'm not going to bother with like names of the adductor muscles. Nobody cares about those. I'm just kidding. You should know as much as you can about anatomy, because it's good and it's fun. Even if you're not really doing humans, it's or character artist or anything like that. It's just one of those things where it's just like a lifelong studying type thing, and it's fun to kind of just know that and be able to apply it, and you can create a little bit faster, a little bit easier. I'm not a real great example of that because I've been lazy and I don't teach it anymore, so stay with it, stay current, stay up on it. And for me, it's one of those things, if I don't use it, I definitely lose it. I can still remember. And also, we can get these hands out of the way. That's another reason to maybe even work on these arms separately. So if I go through here, and this one, let's do this. Hold on, Control Shift. I'll go ahead and cut these arms right along that deltoid here. I'll go ahead and say split that off. So now, and if you ever have that little wispy issue, we can alleviate a little bit of that if we go through here and we'll say close holes, mirrored weld, W, Control Tab these, and then we can just go through and scale this in. Actually, let's hold down Control and pop out an edge ring, and then we'll scale it in, and then we'll scale it down a little bit. And now that kind of gives a little bit of breathing room, and then same thing for this thing. Let's go ahead and close holes. Now this isn't absolutely necessary, just because you're going to be dynameshing this stuff later, but just to make it a little bit nicer while you're working. It only takes a minute. There we go. How's that so bad? And then maybe even the same thing for the legs, but this is just useful if I want to go into solo mode. I don't have to like turn stuff off. I can just go into solo mode real quick, and then we get a little bit of a better side view here. Yeah, so we got some obliques coming in through this way. So you got your obliques up here that are going to tuck right into your serratus anterior. Serratus anterior is an interesting one because this is something that's kind of hard to see. But if we go up here and we select that and we dial these muscles back, you're going to see it attaches to your rib cage and then on that inside back of that scapula. So when those contract, the arm come forward like you're punching something. So, and usually like on hefty big bacon boys, probably not going to see a whole lot of these visible. But like I said, it's fun to go through there and just kind of dial them in just a little bit. And then you can always knock them back. It's easy enough to put something in, and it's also real easy to go through and smooth something out if you don't need it anymore. What's a general workflow in sculpting to achieve micro details? Well, certainly don't start there. What I would do, if I get into micro details on him, which I very well may, depending on how far I decide to take him, you're going to want to start with this right here. You need your primary form, just like when you're sketching, unless you're a very, very talented artist or crazy artist, you generally want to start with your basic sketch, your volumes, your silhouette, your forms, and then you want to go through and refine those into your secondary forms, tertiary forms, and then go through and start doing your little fine details and stuff like that. You usually don't start on a drawing and go fine detail, fine detail, fine detail, upper left, all the way down to the lower right. There are some artists that can do that, and it's very impressive to watch. But generally speaking, like especially when you're sculpting, this isn't necessarily true if you're doing hard surface or even clothing to some degree. But for like organic sculpts, get your forms in there first, and then subdivide and get your secondary forms, and then subdivide and get your keep getting smaller and smaller and dialing in more and more detail until finally you're to the XYZ poor level detail stage. In which case you can do that in ZBrush. Usually, if I'm not breaking the silhouette, I will tend to not do that in ZBrush, just because it's a little more destructive in ZBrush. Because that kind of depends on your end result. If your end result is a 3D print something, then absolutely do it in ZBrush. That makes sense. Let's turn this smooth down a little bit. But if your end result is going to be like in a game engine or something like that, then putting it in the texture makes more sense, especially if it's not going to break the silhouette. It leaves it a little bit, like I said, less destructive. Let's go ahead and dial. Well, I mean, I guess he's got a pretty flat stomach. I always want to make this guy fatter than he is. If I was going for like the movie version, I could really dial in a little bit more of that chunky style. But really, he's kind of broad, but he's not really fat in the cartoon anyways. At least the cartoons that I remember. Waking up. So here's one, kids. You have to wake up early. I had about, I don't know, one of those TVs with the little clicker. It had a big clicker on top and then a smaller clicker on the bottom. I want to say that was the maybe dial in frequency or something. And then this was back in the day when a 32-inch TV was like a monster-sized TV. That was about as big as they got. And then, unless you went for the projection TVs, and then that was, you could get into like the, I don't even know, 45-inch TVs. And, okay, this is the, under here, you've got, anyway, yeah, so you'd have to wake up early Saturday morning, because that's the only time they showed cartoons. So you'd watch your X-Men, and then you'd watch your Ninja Turtles, and then maybe DuckTales. I'm trying to remember what else. Not Looney Tunes. Animaniacs. That was big. And that's the oldest millennial talking right now. 1981. And yeah, having that old... We even had a vacuum cleaner that had like a water tank. It was a big water tank that sloshed around, and you would vacuum, and it would go, the crap would go into the water tank, and then you dump the water tank out, you fill it with water, and then you keep vacuuming. I had to vacuum uphill both ways. That was Zygote Body. What is that? Zygotebody.com. I'll link it to you. There you go. Achieve the primary forms with low-res dynamesh, right? Yeah, you can. It's a little bit easier for me to do that in dynamesh, just because if I ever decide at any point, I could go in here and be like, I want these forms, and then just dynamesh, and then just continue working and be like, okay, let's add these forms to my final mesh. If you were working with like a base body, which wouldn't be a terrible idea if you're just doing like a humanoid base body mesh, then yeah, I would start with like something like this. And if you're not going to change it that much, where'd my tools go? Start with like the Nick Z humanoid male. In fact, if I wanted to retopologize, I could use RapX. I'm sorry. RapX. There's a ZBrush plugin too for RapX, and you could use these to plot points, and you can go through and do and it'll go ahead and wrap that geometry to this form, and then I could project the details back. So I don't even have to like remesh this stuff. Now that's not to say I'm necessarily going to do that, because honestly, I probably don't care that much about the topology. I'm not making this for a game engine. But what I will do, and even though I'm not making it for a game engine or a cinematic that needs decent topology, it's always nice to have a little bit nicer topology, and that's where ZRemesher is going to come in. So basically, I'm going to get the primary forms done, and as soon as I get to a point where it's like, okay, I'm not going to make any major changes. Another example of that would be like the ears here. So I'm going to hold down Shift. Oops. Pop that to the top. I'll go ahead and turn all these things back on here. So while I'm working on these ears, I can have those going on a separate mesh, but then I can go through and I can say, let's go ahead and merge that head down onto those ears and dynamesh like so. Let's go ahead and I'm going to dynamesh this head at a slightly higher resolution. And this is why I have it separate, is just because I can work on the head at like 640 res, and then I don't have to have the body at that resolution because I'm not ready for it just yet. I'm still kind of dialing in his primary forms. But on the head, since it's a little bit smaller, it's a little bit easier. And you know what else I need? I need his tusks. There we go. Let's go ahead and smooth those out a little bit. And this resolution, yeah, so I'll start with dynamesh, and then when I'm to a point where I'm not really going to change that much anymore, then I'll go through and start kind of ZRemeshing and then projecting my details back. Now, I don't really see his eyes in the cartoon hardly ever, if I remember correctly. If I go ahead and turn on dynamic for this one, let's go ahead and say crease level 2, smooth set of 3. 3, so we said 4. It's a little bit better. So here's basically his glasses, which let's go ahead and do a weld points. What's going on here with these glasses? Okay, Control Shift A, split hidden, Shift D, turn that off. Looks like I messed something up. Easy enough fix. Z modeler brush, BZM. They're going to go ahead and bridge edges here to here, and then here to here, and then if it's a little bit easier, you can turn on double on your display. That's good enough. It looks like I kind of mushed this thing around. If I want to straighten this stuff out, it's easy enough to do. I can use clip brush, or I can go through here and I can just do a Z scale. And then here, yoink. And if you ever really want to be like, you know what, I want to play around with the shape and not have to worry about the rest of it, that's when you can just do like a group by normals, isolate this front one here, delete hidden, and then let's say insert single edge loop, hold down alt, kind of straightening this. I mean, I guess it looks okay. Like so. You can change any of this geometry you want to. I think that's good enough. You can use slide if you want to. And then you can go back here. Let's do an extrude. Polygroup all. Pull this back. Display properties flip. That's under tool, display properties. And then go ahead and make this a little thicker, I suppose. There we go. We'll run a crease, and then yeah, crease level smooths over 4. So that'll kind of even that geometry out just a bit. And that's pretty much what it looks like. So again, I don't really see his eyes that much, so I'm not going to spend a whole lot of time on his eyeballs because that would be silly. So we can go through here, and looks like he has a pretty pronounced little fold right there, and then up here. And I could see if like one of my, I'll go to like my favorite artists, like a let's see if I got some here. Go to my artist page. Like I can go to like Andy Bergholtz or Jordi Shell or Bolaris and see if they have any like pig monster faces that might be interesting to look at. And Hulk body stuff for hands are another good one. Nosferatu's a good one. And see if I can't find something that would like spark any way to kind of resolve how I could do maybe pig eye anatomy or something like that. And this isn't really pig eye anatomy, but it could be something interesting, for wrinkles and folds and stuff like that. So always have that kind of stuff laying around. And then now, or it didn't even, I mean, this guy's vaguely humanoid. He's anthropomorphic, I guess you'd call it. So go ahead and dial this in. It also might be easier. You can go ahead and dial in a mouth bag through this and kind of go up and around, but sometimes it's easier just to go ahead and like open his mouth just a little bit. So we'll go through here. We'll take his jaw with it too. Blur that out a little bit, and we'll kind of open his mouth, and then maybe invert that, or let's go back through here. While it's early, we'll give ourselves a little bit of breathing room in here. And then now these tusks can kind of follow that. I guess those would be bottom, wouldn't they? There we go. And so now what we can do is let's go ahead and do an insert right here along that middle. Split mass points. Shrink it down. Scale it outwards. Scale it this way. And now let's go ahead and dynamesh this. And let's go ahead and make this underneath, subtractive, light Boolean. And now we can go through and we can kind of cut in where that mouth bag needs to be. So move brush. And of course you can use pinch. You're just basically just sculpting on this piece of geometry to make this happen. Just kind of using a little bit of light Boolean here. So use pinch, use sculpting, you can smooth it down, you can do whatever you want to kind of make this make sense. And then in the back here, I can kind of go through and we can mask this area out. Yoink. And we can maybe scale it up, hold down Control. Does this have... Give me... Oh, I guess those are edge rings. Go ahead and pull this back and kind of scale it up a little bit. There we go. Do-do-do-ding. All right. Good enough. Close enough for government work. And we can go ahead and say, now I don't have to light Boolean this. I could do a Boolean operation, but now that I know what it's going to look like, go ahead and turn that off. And then I can have this as a subtractive mesh. I can merge that down and just re-dynamesh. That'll just go ahead and cut that right out of my mesh. And then I go through and dynamesh and whatever you want to do. And then now it's going to look a little bit funny without his teeth that go all the way around. We can put in placeholder for that for now, I think. Let's start with a cylinder. Split mass points. Let's turn on transparency. And we'll go ahead and just kind of... Now again, normally, I mean, I could still like the human teeth from the skeleton subtool if I wanted to, if I was doing more of a humanoid. But since this is so cartoony, it's probably going to end up being something like this. I'm going to go through here. I'm going to say trim curve and just trim this back end off. And now we can just deal with this little front shape here. And again, just volumes, nothing more than that. And it's actually, his back teeth actually kind of pop out a little bit on the sides here. You can kind of see he has some weird stuff going here. So, and we can kind of lean into that. So because we inserted that onto a dynamesh mesh, we can just go through and dynamesh it because it inherited those tool properties. Wherever you insert a tool, onto another object, it'll inherit those properties. So because the initial one had dynamesh turned on, this one will too. And then now we can kind of lean into, okay, these bottom teeth here, or you know what, we could even split this into top and bottom teeth. So let's do that. Let's say Control Shift. Let's go ahead and say slice. I don't know how often you actually see. I mean, I guess these are just kind of teeth just sticking out, so that might actually be easier. But because he can open his mouth fully, we have to kind of explore how we can kind of, I don't know, make this a little bit better. So we'll go ahead and split this off. Control drag to re-dynamesh, and we can actually probably dynamesh these a little bit higher. And then re-dynamesh this one. And then now we can go through here and we can kind of see, like, okay, is he going to actually have teeth through here? I don't know. Does the teeth go down? How do pig teeth work? Who knows? It's a mystery, and I'm sure it's not going to look it up. So anyway, we can go through here, and now we can go maybe clay build up, and we can dial in maybe these teeth kind of sticking out. Now that's not to say you couldn't simply go in here and just do like another insert mesh brush, where you just grab a cube and you can just dial in however many teeth you want along here and make them a little bit nicer. But again, we're kind of in just quick and dirty mode, just to really quickly go through and see what's going to stick, what's not, what's going to make sense. So that'll be enough. And then for his upper teeth, who knows? I don't know what I'm doing with that. So we'll just kind of go through here and maybe indicate. And actually, let's go in here with our trim dynamic, get rid of that edge. And instead of building out, we can go through here with our Damien standard and just kind of pull that in. And then this stuff here, probably, you know what, probably we don't even need these teeth here, so I'm just going to knock this back. Kind of ignore that for now. Maybe something like that. Cool. How do you deal with the interior faces of the forms when doing UVs? Kind of depends on. You know what? We'll get to that when we get to cloth, because the vest and stuff is going to have interior faces. And honestly, it's just having a separate polygroup. In ZBrush, it's having a separate polygroup. In any other program, it would be. I mean, you could have a selection set, I suppose. Just a matter of going through and UVing the interior faces. If you're never going to see them, and you're working and you're doing stuff for like a game engine, then be a little bit more cognizant of like your UV space, your texture usage, so you're not wasting texture space or texel density on something you're never going to see. But if you're just doing something for cinematic, it's probably not as important. In fact, I would err on the side probably, it kind of depends, but I would probably err on the side of making sure it is uniform, just because you never know when something's going to be exposed and you don't want to be caught with your pants down as far as something that's your texture resolution sucks in an area that is actually going to be seen and you didn't realize it. And it's not like it's going to add that much to your overall render time probably, unless you have just an inordinate amount of interior faces with 16K textures or something crazy like that, but I don't know how often that really happens. I don't really do a lot of cinematic work, so what do I know? Okay, so these are vaguely remember. This would be your infraspinatus, teres major, and teres minor. Your teres minor, his is actually going to wrap. It's going to go to your scapula, and it's going to. This is one of the more interesting ones. Let's talk about that. So we'll pull this back out. So here's your scapula muscles in here. So this one, and this one. Infraspinatus is that. Let's see if I can get these in the right order. So teres major and then teres minor is that little baby one in there, I think. We'll see. We'll dial these back. And then your infraspinatus. And then it goes along the scapula here. And then these two attach to the outside of your humerus. And then on this one, it's going to wrap around underneath to like almost the front part of that humerus, kind of where your lats end up. Speaking of, we select our lats as well. And dial these back. That's going to connect all the way down here, and then is also going to connect right on the front inside of your humerus. Now, interesting thing about the lats is you may be tempted to look at your anatomy reference and go, or your muscle guy over here, and go, okay, lats, how do they work? So you've got your scapula Spine of the scapula is going to go along the acromion process here, and then back along where the traps connect, and then down kind of into here where your trapezius is going to connect all along here. You've got the upper part of the trapezius, and then this inside one here, and then it kind of folds a little bit around that bone, and then it kind of strings down a little bit. And then the deltoid is going to connect here all the way around the acromion process, then onto the clavicle to the front. Alt tap it. There we go. Yeah, just alt tap and you go select these things. And then you're going to have underneath, actually it looks like the trapezius is going to kind of cut across here, but underneath that you're going to have your infraspinatus, which is a big one here, and then you've got your, let me see, it's kind of hard to tell because these little things are pointing the wrong thing, or it's pointing to the origin, which makes it a little bit difficult because they all kind of originate in the same area. And you'll have a little baby one here, and then you'll have another big one that's going to cut across here. But at the end of the day, long story short, you've got your spine of the scapula coming down here like so. And then across that bottom part is going to be your lats, and that's going to kind of cut across here, and it's going to make this type of shape. So it's going to go down straight through here and then kind of curve up, and that would be your lats. However, if you're looking at your reference, your lats probably don't make a whole lot of that shape. You're going to have these little bumps down here, which is going to be your spinal erectors, I believe. In this area, boy, his butt got small. Go ahead and help him out there a little bit. He doesn't need to have a complete Hank Hill butt. Better. And then underneath here, you're going to have your serratus anterior your serratus muscles are going to kind of bulge out along here. So that's going to make this kind of bulge right here, and then this is going to kind of bulge out as well. So the reason why this is happening is because you have these underneath muscles that are, your lats aren't that dense. Like up here is probably where they're the heaviest, and then as it goes down the body, they're just going to get thinner and thinner. So all these underlying muscles are going to make more of an impact on the overall form, and then eventually it's going to kind of just terminate right into your sacrum there. Doing. Ta-da! And then yeah, over here to your obliques. You got your pelvis in there, and you got your legs, all that good stuff. And then yeah, now again, he's not going to be super jacked. We're just looking for our major volumes so that when we go to simulate cloth on him, it's somewhat representative. We're not going to spend that much time though. And then over here on his arms, let's see what we got here. So we've got his biceps, brachii, and oops, let's go ahead and get our Damien standard here. And again, just kind of sketching in where these cuts go. And then you're going to have your brachialis, which is going to be this bad boy right there. And that's going to go all the way through. So you're going to see that on two sides through here. So if you pop his arm off here, you can maybe see a little bit of that. So here's the brachialis here, and the other underside, it's kind of covered up by veins, but kind of comes through kind of at an angle. And then what else we got? We got triceps. That's everybody's fave. Go and snap this back on. Yeah, so we got triceps here. And then where it attaches to the elbow, that's going to be an important shape. So you have your, get your bony landmarks in there. That's going to be your ulna. And then the lateral and medial epicondyle of the humerus is going to be somewhere in here. And then this is going to be a flat area. So when you're talking about muscles, you're going to have sharp, bony landmarks, and then you're going to have, and the triceps is a good example of this. So you've got your sharp, bony landmark, and then you've got your flat area where your tendon is, and then you've got the rounded, bulgy area where the meat of your muscles are. In the case of the triceps, it's going to make a very distinct shape. So where this cuts in, let's go ahead and just calm that down a little bit. Let's go into our standard brush, crank that up a little bit, and then turn off our lazy radius. That'll make it a little bit easier to sculpt. So, again, just looking at my reference here, carve this in, and then this is going to kind of cut through and down, and then it's going to go down this way. Now again, we're kind of exaggerating a bit the overall size of this triceps, and that's okay. It's not terrible to do. Just make sure you're doing it for a reason. And then this is going to be that flat tendon, goes to that bony outcropping of that ulna, which kind of hooks in around the humerus there. And then over here, you're going to have your extensors kind of flexing around. So you've got your brachioradialis. I guess I can show you guys this here. Yoink. Close, close, close. Like so. It's all coming back to me. So here's that brachialis I was talking about. You can see it on the inside of the arm, and then also right here. And then your triceps over here, your biceps, and then these are your extensors. These are what's going to like lift your fingers up, and then your flexors on the other side underneath this little bicipital aponeurosis. And then your flexors are on the inside. So not to get too caught up in the little baby muscles, it's really more about the volumes. So in this case, it's like, okay, your flexors, again, you've got that in the humerus through here. You're going to have that little knob, and you can just look down. You can see, you know, you got a little knob on the outside, knob on the inside here, and then your flexors are going to be a big egg-shaped muscle here, and your extensors are going to be, well, your brachioradialis. Is that right? Brachioradialis. And that's going to be a little bit higher, and then your flexors are going to sit along that inside here. So this is going to wrap around, and then these are going to kind of sit right through here. And again, not worried about the overall individual muscles, just worried about like big forms. High to low. Same thing on the legs here. Let's worry about those a little bit. So over here, you're going to have high to low, high to low. Let's go ahead and knock these back just a little bit here. And then on super, a little bit more muscular people, this can kind of cut in a little bit. So your rectus femoris, and then your vastus lateralis, vastus medialis can kind of overwhelm or kind of be a little bit more prominent and kind of make this appear as if it kind of gets tucked in between these two. And then on the outside, so on the inside it's going to be curved because you have all these things. You got that sartorius here, and you got this muscle here, and these are kind of round out this inside here. And then on the outside though, you're going to have your tibia and your femur. It's going to kind of, and some tendons over on this side. So this is kind of going to be a little bit flatter, a little bit harder. And this side's going to be, inside's going to be a little bit curvier. On the back side, you're going to have your hamstrings, a little bit softer. And depending on, usually these don't get, unless you're like Ronnie Coleman, right before a match, what do they have? Pose down? What do bodybuilders do? I guess I don't know. Do they have matches? You're gonna not see a whole lot of definition just in a standing pose of a hamstring unless he's like bent down. Here, you're gonna have your calf muscles, your gastrocnemius, and your. I'm gonna show you these ones. Going way down here. So gastrocnemius, and then that's gonna be, that's what I was looking for, soleus, and then this is going to be your, calcaneofibular ligament, or your Achilles tendon. So go through here and kind of dial those in. And again, just like the triceps, you know, you're going to have your big muscle belly here, and this is also going to be another high to low. So high to low, high to low, high to low. However, when you get down to them ankles, that's when you're going to have your tibia and your fibula. Your tibia is your big one, your big bone right in here, and that's going to swing over, and it's going to put a little bony landmark here. This is when it's actually going to go high to low on the opposite side, so a little bit higher for your tibia side, and on the fibula side, it's going to be a little bit lower. Now this stuff I really don't care about. Maybe not that low. because he's going to be wearing shoes. Now, if I ever have a shoeless version of him, if he's going to do like a Burt Reynolds bear rug pose, then I'm definitely going to want to make sure that that's represented. But in this case, I'm not overly worried about that. So we'll go ahead and take these hamstrings and we'll kind of make this a little bit more defined here. There is a sheath that kind of comes along this side as well. Kind of attaches down through here. You can, yeah, that's probably not so important to put in there. But that vastus lateralis certainly is. And again, your hamstrings here. And making sure we just get just enough definition along the side here. I cut this in like so. And then, now you are going to have some muscles on the inside of here. Like your, God, it's been so long. I used to know this stuff, I swear. I wouldn't lie. Tibialis anterior and some more extensors. So when your extensors, just like your extensors on your hands, lift your fingers up, you're going to have extensors on your toes, which lift your toes up. And then those are going to be along the outside here. So you are going to have some that kind of come through and help those volumes on the outside. On the inside, though, that's, you can kind of just see straight through to that bone. Yoink, bam, tibia, fibula, fibula, tibia. And so that's why that tibia has a higher ankle, fibula has lower ankle. So again, high, low, high, low, high, low, high, low. Switch sides. And then, of course, you're going to have your feet in here and stuff like that. But I guess that's vaguely correct. Do you have your own Twitch channel? Yes, I'll be and it's on my, usually when I live stream, it'll stream to my YouTube as well. So that'll be Pavmike on Twitch. So twitch.tv/Pavmike. Should be possibly on my OBS somewhere. Yeah, twitch.tv/Pavmike down at the bottom. And so first Tuesday of the month, I'll stream on Pixelogic's channel, but I usually just upload the video to my YouTube channel as well. But you can definitely check that out. So if you go, some of that stuff isn't. So if I go to stream, especially the older stuff, the Pavlovich workshop, which is what this is. I don't know how much of a workshop it is anymore, but that's my ZBrush stuff, and then my YouTube stuff here, like live stream episodes, and here's my liked videos where I was watching a grandma cook some food. It was very relaxing for some reason. So yeah, we'll go ahead and finish these out here. And so you're going to have some tendons up in this area, which is going to kind of bulge that out. So it's not just like your hamstrings come in and then your calves tuck in, which you would kind of see in an écorché model. But in this case, it's a little bit more representative of your surface anatomy. And then through here, we'll go ahead and just dial this back in, that tendon, that nice sharp tendon, and then, yeah, a little bit higher on the outside, a little bit lower on the inside. On the inside of that knee, what do we got? Now, actually, what I'm going to do is I'm going to raise that resolution just a bit. I think we're ready. So now that we've got our primary forms in, we can go through and we can start raising that resolution. Now, past this point, I probably wouldn't raise the resolution anymore. This has got plenty of information for me to start going through, and I'm not going to make any major changes. So this is where I would start contemplating just ZRemeshing this final result. You know, because past here, it's just going to be like this little detail-y stuff, where it's going to be like, okay, let's go through here and kind of round this out and maybe push this in a little bit through here. And then maybe kind of bulge this a little. And then where this, let's kind of fill this in just a little bit. And this might actually be a little bit higher resolution, but we'll stay with it for just a bit. And then the calf muscle. Again, we got that big bony tibia right here. And then And I'm actually excited to get to the ZRemesher part. Let's turn off caps lock. There we go. Here, and then that's a little bit heavy. I like my meshes be a little bit more responsive than that. And again, we can always raise resolution later, but again, it's just getting your primary forms dialed in first is what's important. Making sure those read, and then even past that point, depending on how much detail you're going to end up putting in. And this is more, especially when you get to like the chest area, we'll talk a little bit more about like, you know, you dig in and you use your clay brush, your clay buildup brush to kind of go through and refine. So like back through here, these hamstrings are going to connect down. And these will be pretty pronounced, and that sheath will kind of pop out a little bit, and that'll attach up to your vastus lateralis, like so. And, you know, the leg's not so important, but since we're kind of having a little bit of fun, at least I am, you may not be. For that, I apologize. But since we're talking about anatomy, there's no point in just being like skipping leg day. It's all relevant. It's all good stuff to learn, and it doesn't take that long. Go through and keep you honest a little bit. Like me, you know, again, if I don't use it, I can certainly lose it pretty quick. And then, yeah, so here, I'm kind of cut this in a little bit. And again, that sartorius cuts way through here, wraps around, back up, adductors, up to our very wide pelvis here. We can, you know, we can probably bring this in just a little bit. He's got very wide hips for a male. Okay, and then one more time along this back here, we can kind of go through and make a few more judgment calls on these shapes in here. And now this one's going to be cut in a little bit, but not quite as prominent, but it's going to kind of bulge out just a bit there. And then along here, you know what? Let's go ahead and get these arms up to a certain point, because I want to get these arms back into the main body. And also this chest a little bit too. So we're going to drop this chest down just a bit. It's a little bit. He's got a big torso, so we'll double check our proportions as well. Again, it's hard to snap out of that. You know, he's humanoid-ish, but certainly has some interesting anatomy, especially like around this neck area. His clavicle isn't even not real super existent there. It's going to be a little bit difficult to get in there and dial that in. But go through here and work on that pec separation. If I want to, I can also go back in here and use the pinch brush, kind of squeeze that shut. Now, this is an area where you may be tempted, I certainly always am, to go through and like Bruce Lee him up, where you just go in and get him some real nice separation. And this is going to be the separation where it's going to be, you know, this main muscle here is going to attach back, and then all along that sternum here, and then a part of that clavicle, and these, and then on the rib cage here, these are all going to wrap up and turn around. Actually, here, kind of a fan muscle here. So we got our pectoralis major, and then it goes again along the sternum, along the rib cage, portion of the clavicle. Come on. And then it goes and twists on the inside, and then maybe like 3 finger lengths width, and then just underneath that head of the humerus there. So if you're ever having trouble, like with muscle striations and where they go, how do they work, that's a pretty good indicator. That'll let you know where those things need to end up. And then, of course, you know, if they're not going to be that ripped, if they are going to be that ripped, then yeah, definitely go through here and kind of dig in where those muscles are kind of meeting up along here. And then again, along that clavicle here. And then you can kind of dig in and then go back in with your clay brush. Probably not clay buildup at this point. It's a little, the mesh, I mean, you could do clay buildup on a little bit of a lower in Z intensity, maybe. You can kind of go through here and really kind of go nuts with that, the muscle striation and stuff like that. But that looks a little bit weird with our bacon boy. So we'll go ahead and knock this back a little bit. So again, the forms are fine. They're where they're supposed to be. You just don't need that much separation. So you can go through here, and this is, we'll call this the fat brush. And that's just basically going through and taking some of that definition out of the overall muscle structure. Drawing with a tablet. Yes, what kind of tablet are you using? This is a Wacom. They call it Wacom when they come to the office. They're a Wacom company. Intuos Pro model PTH 651. It's an older version. I think it only has like 1024, maybe 2048 levels of pressure sensitivity. I don't use a Cintiq. I've talked about this before in previous episodes, but basically it's faster for me to like move around. Like this is a little bit not as obvious because I'm kind of being very slow and methodical while I'm dialing stuff in. But you know, when I'm doing just like hard surface work or when I'm doing just regular concept work, I can move much faster and go in here and move my wrist, as opposed to if I was in front of a 32-inch Cintiq, I'd be moving my arm way up here and move my arm way down here. Not to mention, my arm's going to be in the air for 8 hours a day. So ergonomically speaking, not real fun. And then also, so speed, ergonomics, and then having your eyeballs next to, I mean, these kind of help. Now these are my, these aren't the real good looking. These are the ones I can drop these gunner glasses so that they don't break when I drop them. There's another model, the plastic ones that look a little bit better, but boy, those things snap if you just look at them wrong. So you can use these as well to kind of help your eyesight. Your eyes won't get so dry and so worn out throughout the day, so fatigued. Kind of puts a yellow tint. Now, if you're doing color sensitive work, obviously don't wear these, but or I guess you could tune your the color on your monitor to compensate, but that's probably a little bit scary. Don't do that. But yeah, so put these on to kind of help with your eye fatigue, but also, but when you're on a Cintiq, I had a tendency to kind of lean forward and lean over, and next thing you know, I'm working 3 inches away from a light bulb for 8, 10, 12 hours a day. So Cintiqs for me are a no-go unless I'm doing like ink work. If I want to do like very precise line work, then maybe. But when's the last time I inked something? Probably never that I can remember. People don't pay me to ink things or do very precise line work. And also, there's also tools available for doing very precise line work. So, but your mileage may vary. A lot of people at work live and die, and you can use both, you know, depending on what you're working on. They swear by their Cintiqs. I'm not going to stop them. That's just not my thing. And it's kind of getting for the Cintiqs. Adoption of the Cintiqs is easy because if you're a new artist and you're just kind of learning how to use a tablet, it'll take you maybe it'll take you a whole day to kind of get used, or a couple of days, or maybe even a week. Might take you a week of your whole life to get used to the disconnect between the tablet and not having to look at your hand or know where your hand is in space in order to function properly. But at the end of the day, man, it's just easier. It's just easier. And you can save yourself some money. But again, your mileage may vary, man. You do you. Okay, so we've got obliques here. And then we've got, so our rib cage here, we're going to tighten this rib cage up just a little bit. Very, very broad rib cage. Not necessarily a bad thing, but just a little too broad for my tastes. And also super pronounced abs through here. We'll go ahead and knock those back just a little bit. Again, he's not a schlub. He hits some sort of a gym, but he's a little bit more plain Jane than. Yeah, you're not going to be seeing oblique fingers. And even in here, it would be something like these serratus anterior muscles are going to be more parallel. And then these obliques are going to be oblique. And then these are going to be, the obliques are actually be flatter. The serratus anterior are going to be probably a little bit more bulgy. And then these obliques that come in through here, a little bit flatter. And don't confuse these with your rib cage. However, if he was going to like lean to the side, this side would scrunch up and get a little bit heavier with the muscle tissue kind of falling and overlapping with each other, and then the other side, the rib cage, would pop out, so you'd get a little bit more of your bony landmark down around here. But in the A pose, not so much. And that's something that if you're doing like a muscle sim or something, that can get really interesting. Haven't done a whole lot of those, but if I was to retire, what I would do if I was to retire, if I, you know what, let's say I had $50 million, I'm going to win the lottery tomorrow. And first I would go and travel, and I wouldn't touch a computer for probably a couple years. After that, I would come back and I would probably get into forensic crime scene reconstruction. I think there's a lot you could do, and not just necessarily the scene itself, although that would be, I would like photogrammetry. I would figure out a system to photogrammetry crime scenes and put that into an engine so that you could put on like a VR or an AR type situation, or both. Probably VR though. And you could use that as a way to kind of go through the crime scene like the day of. You go there, and you, instead of taking pictures of a crime scene, you take a billion pictures of a crime scene, reconstruct it, and then of course you're always going to have your high-res images to go back to, but you're not relying on just a few pictures that somebody took and hoping you can go back through a dusty box in a warehouse somewhere and try and remember or recreate or examine something. That's ludicrous to think that somebody can go back and put that in their brain somehow. I mean, I'm sure some great detectives can, but let's lower that barrier to entry. So go through and have entire crime scenes easily stored and easily available. You could do it in a game engine, and you can just kind of walk through a crime scene. You could even dial in what type, like if you want to walk through as a 6-foot person or you want to walk through as a 5'5" person, you could do that as well. And I think that would be fun as hell to do. And then also forensic, like rebuilding skulls for, you know, cold cases and stuff like that, I think would be incredibly, I guess fun probably isn't the right word, but rewarding. And that's that little baby muscle back in here. And then these are going to kind of overtake that a little bit. So that baby muscle is really just going to be more of an indentation at this point. And then these two big muscles are going to overtake it. Your infraspinatus and teres major. And then again, your lats going to kind of cut through. And here where the lats are thicker, we'll give it a little bit more power. And we'll kind of wrap that around. And then where they kind of thins out, we'll give it a little bit less power, and it just becomes more of a sheath over these underlying muscle groups here. And here, you know what? Let's go ahead and pull these in just a little bit. Looks like we need to separate these. Yeah, that feels better. And then we can also go into solo mode here. And we can knock some of this back. Leave that stuff to the arms. There we go. All right. Now the triceps muscle striations are interesting. So you've got these ones here. So this separation is going to be your C7. So if you lean your head down and you touch the back of your head, you're probably going to feel a little knob right there. That's going to be the kind of the base of your neck. And then your traps are going to have, again, a tendon. So it's going to be flat right in through here. And then through here, your muscle fibers kind of wrap around. So you've got the scapula right here, and then these kind of wrap around it like this. And then these ones here kind of go through like this. So that's your trapezius. And then on the front here, so your occipital protuberance of your head, this is actually going to continue up, and then you're going to have a little bump on the back of your skull here. And then this is where your traps go. And then all through here, your traps are going to kind of terminate just on the front side, just a little bit of that clavicle right here. And then all this right here is actually not traps. So we'll kind of hollow this out a little bit. Now in the reference, he's got a big old fat neck. So again, we're doing the best we can with what we've got, but we can start here and then we can always thicken it up later. Dynamesh here. Cool, awesome. "3D modeling looks so complicated." Oh, this is the fun stuff. You want complicated. It can certainly, well, I don't know, modeling, it's kind of an experience thing. If you have the right tools and you know how to approach something, because there is some stuff that can get complicated for sure. Like if I had to model an engine and all the component parts, that could be a little bit tiresome, and I'd probably end up, but with like CAD tools and stuff, it can kind of be fun. This type of modeling isn't that complicated. All I've been using this whole time is my clay brush, my standard brush, Damien's standard brush, and the move brush. That's it. That's all I've been using. So, complicated is probably not the right word. And really, if I was just having fun and just not thinking too much, whenever I live stream, I tend to I get a little nervous and I'm like, okay, we have to, do this muscles perfectly, but I was just having fun and kind of just have my music on or forensic files on, would this wouldn't be as tedious and I could just kind of go with the flow. In fact, if you want to see something I did as a little bit more freeform, not freeform, I was using concept, which also makes things go a lot faster. Let's do this. For instance, this whoa, sorry, turn that down. This earthworm gem, I start with this, one of the base body. You can start with the Nick Zuccarello base body, or, and honestly, I would be probably using insert mesh brushes as opposed to project primitive, but this was for the 2018, the project primitives were new, so I was just trying it out and just kind of going through and dialing in the shapes. This is a little bit more stylistic, and earthworm gem body is a little bit more intense. But go through and kind of block out the hands, and the whole earthworm gem sculpt took about 4 hours, just kind of going through. And again, but this is like not live streaming, not talking, not trying to think at the same time, just going through the motions and having some music on or something, and just kind of going through and blocking out the shapes. This is also, I'm keeping him not posed for as long as I can. And then to answer the other question from earlier, putting in some teeth here, little blockout teeth. When do you start doing the detail work? So when I get the body to a certain point, like here, I'll probably stop, and then I can go through and I can extract some straps here and the gloves. And then once I get to a certain detailed point, I'll ZRemesh and project those details back. And then at that point, start adding the details. Now in this case, it's a little bit different because I'm posing early. Usually I'll go ahead and finish it out, and then the pose will just be on a rig or something like this. This is more project primitive stuff, which I don't do too much of, but it's useful. Little gun handle. And then now we're into the refining stage. So just go through and just kind of match your reference, make sure it's working. Put some eyeballs on here. This is a layered eyeball, so it's going to be, when I take it into key shot, it'll work a little bit better. You have the little outside shiny part, and then the inside. Here's little ring hoops. Go around his head there, etc., etc. Let's skip forward just a little bit. Oh yeah. So this point, this has all been ZRemeshed, and then just going through and just adding the wrinkle details, selling the forms, how they're working. If you got something bending, you want to put nice creases on this side and then flatten it or smooth it out on the other side, just like on this little worm head. And then now just doing a little bit of a poly paint, just kind of going through and filling the poly paint and throwing this in the key shot. And again, this wasn't like I'm going to take it into V-Ray and do a lot of material treatment or take it through Substance Painter first. This was purely just material drag and drop key shot type stuff. So you can take it way further than this, but again, for half a day, it was probably half a day for the sculpt, and then another half a day for like poly painting and key shot setup and rendering and stuff like that. But it goes quick. And again, it's not rocket science. Anybody can do that. I promise. Easy. Oh, this is the wrong title. Okay, good point. Let me go to my streaming here. Let's change that. This is not Thomas Whitlock. This is drafts, stream. I always forget to do that. There you see if that updates it. Make a VDM brush from a mesh or insert mesh brush. I watched one of your Houdini method, but the link is broken. I fixed it. So if you go back to the, kill that. Where'd I go? Did I just lose my search functionality here? Or am I just blind? All right, videos. Oh my God. Oh, it was off the page. So okay, Houdini VDM. There you go. So if you want to use VDM brushes from like an arbitrary mesh in Houdini, it's kind of cool. It'll go through, and you could take like a mouth with a mouth bag and a head, and then you just drop it into Houdini, and it'll go ahead and project the face for you, for example, in this example. So here, let's just do, I'll send you to the actual playlist. I think it's got some other stuff in there, and also got a hard surface example, UFO playlist. There you go. So on those videos, you should have an updated link. So if you go in here and show more GoZ VDM, oh, GoZ for Houdini, you don't need that anymore. That's just built in. So here's the SOP HDA. Let's see, would you rather use clay buildup or clay? Clay buildup's good for my big forms. I tend to drop clay. Sometimes I'll do a hybrid where I'll go in here to clay and I'll add in an alpha and then maybe up the intensity a bit, and then I kind of get a little bit of that clay buildup feel without having to pay for you know, this type of thing. Now, even when I'm using clay buildup or clay tubes, I'll drop that intensity down, but a lot of times, and also let's drop that smooth stronger down just a bit. I tend to use clay a lot, but you know, there's nothing wrong. Clay buildup kind of comes with its own muscle striations built in a little bit, you know? So you can kind of go through here and you can kind of do a little bit of buildup work and then go through and knock it back down. You know, but your mileage may vary, and you can also achieve something similar with that clay brush. Of course, you can also knock that focal shift down and get even more of that feel, but you know, I'll keep it maybe down a little bit. I'm kind of working through those. So where we leave off here? We got that nice shelf, that Superman shelf over here, and then we got some abs, and then this is where it's going to kind of bend in a little bit right along here. Put a nice kind of a big crease. My wife is singing while she's working out. And then this will be the rib cage here. And then, you know what? Let's knock that Z intensity back just a little bit. And you know what? Let's get rid of that alpha. We'll keep the focal intensity down. That's about all I'm going to do. Again, I'm not looking for really harsh transitions right now. I'm just looking for like more of an inflation of my volumes, which you could use the inflate brush for, but that's a little too soft. So kind of feeling out what brushes work for you. And honestly, what works for me may not work for you. You may be an absolute monster with the clay buildup brush. Me, not so much. So don't listen to me as if I have all the answers for you or your workflow style is going to be compatible with mine. Okay, so butt here, this butt is going to kind of come through here, and that'll kind of be that little bit of that sheath through here, but that's not going to be super prominent, especially when we start putting cargo pants on this dude. We can go ahead and also, if I want to check anything, I can also switch. Let's do a quick save real quick, and then we'll do a load tool, I think in my CGMA class. I teach CG Master Academy. We're in the middle of a term right now. Week 4 just wrapped. So we're heading into week 5. And we have a lot of fun. If you want to see more of that, we go through, let's see, where's training 2018? we go through this many videos. So week 0 is our intro, and you can see that on my YouTube channel. The intro is on there. 50 some odd videos, 58 videos, and then all the way through here, all the way through Unit 6. We go through all that stuff, and they kind of work through and do their projects based on those videos. And it's a loose class. It's not like a super. Let's do this. Let's see, geometry, delete higher, mirror and weld. Go to RB about blockout, subtool, append, body mail, and this body mail. Alt tap to select it, and then we'll go down here and we'll say deformation unify. And I'll go ahead and put that back behind. Now you could work on this with that split screen, but honestly, while I'm just working at this resolution that I'm streaming at, not super great. If you've got a better monitor, it might work a little bit better. But you can see, now we can kind of just eyeball and go, okay, yeah, rib cage is about right, and our obliques are about right. Our legs are stumpy, but that's kind of as designed. Our knees could use a little work, but we're going to have pants on. Let's go to the side here. And you can see I dropped the resolution quite a bit on our guy here just to make it a little bit easier. But of course, you can keep the more detailed version. If you want links to that, I have them. Let me see if I can switch over to my CGMA. You can have these base bodies if you want them. You don't even have to take my class. Let's see, Drew and Google Drive here. Base bodies, base bodies, base bodies. Base bodies. Share. Get shareable link. There you go. Go nuts. Clay build over clay. Yeah. Is there a way to have color height model? For example, ground is black, 2 millimeter height is yellow, 4 millimeters green, and so on. That would be helpful for sculpting for CNC. Oh boy, do I have anything for you. You better believe if you go to Summit 2019, ZRemesher Summit. I guess there's a lot of summits. Pixelogic presents ZRemesher Summit 2019. Hasn't been released yet, but you can go through here, and Joseph Dress talks about a little bit of that functionality that's coming up for 3D printing. So it started around 30 minutes in, and it goes into the ability to kind of analyze your mesh, and it's all real time too. So if you have an undercut, or if you need to analyze the thickness of your mesh, there's analyze tools through here. Check that out. Metallica all the way. Again, I'm a child of the 90s, so kind of comes with the package. What resolution do you prefer to work at as far as monitor is concerned? I'm so used to streaming and then recording for YouTube that so on my monitor here, if you go to hold on, sorry, give me a sec. This is a little bit dated, but here's my workstation setup. And this is at my old house, so I'm not in the living room anymore, but you can kind of check this out if you want to look at more hardware specs. But anyway, so this little section right here in the middle of the screen is 1080p, and then I have these monitors here. I don't really have that side one anymore. I gave that to my wife. I don't need that much reference, but I have all this reference down here, and then I have all reference I can put around my screen and any chat I can have over here, and then I just work right in this little section here. So even when I'm working now, I just keep it at this tiny resolution, just because that's what I'm used to. That's how my Wacom's kind of set. Wacom is kind of set up. Of course, if I didn't stream or do any of that, then I would certainly probably use. Although I don't need that much real estate. Like I don't need 40 inches while I work on the inside of his thigh. So there's some rare instances where that might come in handy, but really. Not that often. Oh yeah, I'm using my reference here. So yeah, this is very useful. You can go through here. You can kind of dial this in a little bit. And you can kind of hold down shift here. And then got our calves here, and then our tendons here, and then our, just flatten that out a little bit. Put in this little ankle bit. And then on the other side, yeah, and this is helpful for anything I may have kind of missed or misjudged from my 2D reference, just the ability to go in here. Oh, another thing too, if you go into, I won't pull it up because it's very naked, and YouTube has some severe problems with that. But you can go to like 3D Scan Store, and you can download scan data. I could probably even bring some up if I had some on my computer. I'm not sure that I do. But bring in like 3D scan data and do exactly this, and just kind of learn and see, you know, the draft of the face and the arms and all that stuff, how they all work together. Save you a little bit of headache, and it's a good learning opportunity. And like I said, I'm not too worried about details back here, but just making sure that my volumes are vaguely correct. And then the inside of the knee here, this is all fine. And then this will kind of beef a little. And then we'll chop a little. This is a little pronounced. We can just dumb that down just a little bit. Alrighty, moving right along. And again, we can always check these proportions later, and I might actually be more inclined to do it after we've ZRemeshed, because that's going to give me subdivision history so I can move around the big forms and not have to worry about losing my details or working with too much geometry. So what you want to do when you're ZRemeshing is give yourself a nice low-res envelope so you can make large changes without it affecting your mesh too much. Let's kind of dial back, get that side of the butt there, that gluteus maximus. And this is, it's also a lot funner too when you're kind of, you're up to date with anatomy and stuff. It's a lot funner to just go in and have fun. Even when you're drawing and stuff, it's a lot funner when you know what you're doing. As opposed to now where I'm kind of like, oh yeah, I kind of vaguely remember this. Back in the good old days when I used to teach it. That's another thing too, is if you want to learn something, teach it, because it kind of forces you to know it. You don't want to walk in there like an idiot or live stream it. The problem with that is I really don't mind looking like an idiot, so I can just come on in here and be like, I'm dumb. But you know, it'll kind of make you a little bit honest. You know, keep you a little bit honest, I should say. And then for the arms here, if you want to focus on these, let's go ahead and say yoink. Actually, let's do both sides. And you know what? We'll also get back up here into the neck. So all this stuff we're interested in, kind of. And then this we can kind of, you know what? I think we're ready. I think we're ready to say, okay, body to the top. Arms to the top. Hands, not yet. Let's work on these hands a little bit. So we've got our hands here. Not a whole lot of detail. That's okay. I'm trying to see if there's any. So hands are generally flatter on the tops and then more bendy on the undersides. Let's go ahead and raise that resolution a bit. There we go. And then you're going to have some tendons through here and then kind of a bony mass through here. So knuckle, knuckle, knuckle. And this pinky is getting a little bit squishy, so I can probably go through here and yoink. And now cut back through. So this is going to be the, like I said, a little squishier on the undersides here. And let's go into solo mode so we can kind of see a little bit better. So for these hands, you can kind of cut through here and on the side of the hand here. These are very relaxed hands, not very posed hands, but the pants can do all sorts of interesting stuff. Also, make sure you put in, when you're dialing in your knuckles here, if you look at the top of your hand, your fingers look a lot longer than they do when you look at the bottom of your hand. That's because your pads here kind of come out pretty significantly, and then your knuckles kind of come back in this way. So your little pads on the other side dictate a little bit of that length. Let's go ahead and turn our smooth stronger down a little bit. And then here, let's see if we can't. Let's meet the palm here, and then along the top side. I'm trying to see if I have any decent hand reference. I really don't. All right, you know what my decent hand reference is? Looking down at my damn hand while I work. Genius. So we go through here. We got the meat, like so. And this will kind of come back. Imagine that. I can just look down and I have hand reference. Wish I could do that for everything. I'll lift this out a little bit. And the other cool thing about sculpting, when it comes to like learning and anatomy and stuff, is that you work on it in the round. So you're kind of using it. Now I wouldn't say do this in lieu of drawing. You should do both, but it's really complementary to your drawing skills. The ability to kind of go through and let's see here. Kind of think in the round, and then also when you're working on something in the round, you can also later use it as reference for your drawing. So if you go through and you make a skull really quick, you can load it up later, and then you can put it at like 3/4 and side view and stuff like that. And you know. So now on his fingers, yeah, he does have kind of gnarly fingers. So we're going to go through and we'll detail that up just a tiny taste. So we're going to go through here, and we'll go through and we'll kind of carve in the indications of where his nail bed is. On nails, you want to go to the front side here because they're going to follow around the path. Now these, again, you can kind of see our resolution kind of breaking down. That's okay. I'm going to stick with this for a little bit longer before we decide. And you can get really specific too with these finger wrinkles. Like when you look at your finger wrinkles, like the middle finger will kind of have a gap, but the pinky, these fingers won't, but these fingers will have a gap. So you can get very, very detailed with that. And even from the side, they do all sorts of interesting stuff. On the top here is where your baggy skin goes, like so. And then this is going to be those big loose type of wrinkles. And then on the front side, not so much. These are just going to kind of be kind of drawn in. These are a little bit more faint. And then up here, these knuckles are actually pretty pronounced. I'm not sure if they'd be that pronounced. But what is going to be pronounced is the tendons on the back of the fingers here. Especially if your hands are extended, you're using your extensors. These will kind of pop a little bit. Interestingly, you have some tendons down here, and I think some portion of the population is missing one of these. So there's some people who have like a little extra tendon in here, and then some people who don't. So not that it really matters for this, but fun fact. Kind of a crappy fun fact because I don't actually know the name of it or that much about it anymore, but I'm supposed to know everything. All right, so this kind of comes over this way, and then on the thumb, again, bony landmark, flat, tendon, or bony landmarks pointy, tendons flat, and then muscles round. Not a whole lot of muscles in the hand. It's mostly skin and fat, and then tendons. If you look at the like écorché models and stuff, there's some muscle in there, but most of the grip strength is going to come from your forearms, your extensors, which, I'll go back down here. muscles back, please. So these extensors right here, and then these flexors right here go all the way down. Let's go ahead and, can I hide these? Ugh, move out of the way. There we go. They come down here and then they shoot these little things here. So see, not a whole lot of muscle on the fingers, obviously. There's a few muscles in here in the pad of the palm, but where that strength is really coming from, your grip strength's coming from your forearm muscles here. So again, your flexors, then your extensors shoot down along the bones, and then they curl. And then you have skin and fat to protect your bones. Do you know how you made that relief from earthquake on the coin? Yeah, I have a pretty good idea. In fact, let me see if I've got it. There we go. ZBrush release stamp. This is one way you could do it. So I'll send you this here. You can just make an alpha stamp out of it. There's a bunch of different ways, but that's probably a pretty straightforward way. Palmaris longus, that sounds right. Thank you. See, this is why I crowd stream my information. We can crowdsource it. And you guys got the real smarts. I'll be the conduit for your brains. And you could use the inflate brush on these, but I'm going to keep them square. I don't want to round them out or blob them out too much. And then also if you wanted to pose these hands a little bit, now might be the time to do it if you want to do a little bit more of a relaxed finger, but I guess these will work fine. I'm not too concerned. So let's go ahead and raise that resolution just a little bit more. And just because I want to resolve some of these details a little bit before we head into combining this stuff together. So I'm going to go through here on this nail bed and hold down Alt. God, man, fingers need so much resolution. Fingers and heads are just so resolution dependent. Go through here and then hold down Alt again, and we can kind of just start. Now, these nails could definitely be separate objects, and that's probably what I'm going to end up doing. But again, just kind of defining how these things are going to work, and then we'll go through here and we'll use the pinch brush. And I'm always hesitant to live stream like this type of stuff. I would probably be inclined just to do it on my own time and then just show up one day with like, hey, we got all this stuff done. Now let's go do a little bit more of the action-packed stuff. But, you know, sometimes I'm not going to find, what is she doing in there? Sometimes I'm not going to find the time to do that. So you guys are going to have to suffer through me exploring and kind of fixing stuff as I go. So let's see. Okay, yeah, looking at my hand here. We got another tendon kind of along this way. And kind of dial in just a bit. All right, I think that's good enough, close enough. Again, we're just doing government work here. These knuckles are kind of intense, and it kind of is okay for that cartoony type character, but in reality, these are probably going to be just the ligaments are just going to kind of poke out a little bit more than the big knobby knuckles. And then over this, you're going to have just a few indications of. And then on the pinky here, looks like we got a little more skin on this side. So we'll kind of indicate just a little bit of skin coming up and over. Ta-da! And then we'll go ahead and merge these together. But first, let's go here. And we'll make sure this bicep kind of fits in here. And then you have, oh, what's that really deep muscle? You know what? Why do I ask? When I know I can just go in here. There's a very, very, yeah, this little boy right there. Well, maybe that's not the one I'm thinking about. There's one that connects to the coracobrachialis. Well, maybe that is it. Oh, it is. That is the one I was thinking of. So you take this muscle back. You have a little coracoid process coracoid, I think that's right, on your inside of the scapula, little finger that kind of sticks out. And then here you're going to have a little piece of muscle that kind of goes through here and attaches right onto that humerus there. So that's going to be like your armpit muscle there. So you can kind of see it poking out right there. And then you got your biceps, and then you got your brachialis, and then you got your triceps, medial head, long head, and lateral head, like so. But yeah, so little baby armpit muscle, it's the coracoid brachialis, something like that. And you know what? I could pop off this arm and we could just put it right there in front of me. So now I go into solo mode. And then looking at my reference here, go through here. So my bicep is vaguely correct. And then you're going to have this muscle, the brachialis, is going to cut across this way. And then the coracobrachialis, I'm just butchering these names, I'm positive. And then these tricep muscles. There we go. Not too shabby. Let's go ahead and we're going to bump this up just a bit. And again, we're not in the refining. We're not putting any pore detail on here. We're just slowly, ever so painfully slowly forcing you guys to watch me go through and evaluate these. We can also go out of solo mode here. And we can kind of use our reference here. Now this is where I probably should have left more resolution on the body. You know what? Let's do it. Sit here and complain about it when all I got to do is go back to my body mail. Let's go up to delete lower, mirror and weld. It's not like ZRemesher can't handle polygons. Oh no, I just deleted my arms because I'm an idiot. It's okay, we'll get them back. So we'll go body mail here, delete, append, body mail, unify, move them back. All right, now here's the fun part. So we're going to go to Save As, and we're going to go to Streaming, Turtle Power, Bebop, Blockout. Oh, we're on number 11. Now, I deleted my arms, again, because I'm an idiot. But if we go in here to the Quick Save, let's go ahead and grab our last Quick Save here. Wait for it. We're working on the hands. Arms weren't very far along, so we'll go ahead and grab these arms. We'll say delete other, and then we'll load up our blockout, and then we will simply append our arms. And we're back where we started. Raise that. Oh yeah. So we did miss one part here, but we remember how to do this. So we can go through here, and we can say, okay, biceps. And then brachialis. Let's drop the resolution just a little bit. There we go. So biceps, brachialis, there's your flexors, just below that, and then your coracoid process muscle, coracobrachialis. Okay, biceps, brachialis, here, and then we've got our tricep muscles cutting in along here. Nice. And then on the flexors here, I can play around with this a little bit too while we're here. Okay, so looking here, you got your flexors kind of coming along here, and we'll go ahead and bulge these out just a little bit. And then, yeah, kind of, yeah, I guess that is right. Your medial epicondyle, medial inside towards the middle of your body, it's going to be here, and then your lateral epicondyle is going to kind of be a divot, but it's going to be right next to your, kind of right in here. So as we're going through, that tendon should be straight, right? Because it's just going point A to point B, and then these muscles are going to be bulgy, softer forms. There we go, something more like that. Okay, see, we didn't even lose that much work. And then now we can kind of evaluate, you know, his deltoid here. Let's go ahead and turn off his polypaint here. So here, actually, you know what? We'll keep that on because it'll keep him kind of lit up. So here's where his deltoid going to kind of cut across here, and then again back up into that clavicle chromium process, and then down the spine of that scapula. He is certainly he's got more of like a gorilla body. So he's a little more beefy style. And I may be actually even exaggerating that a little bit even from the cartoon, but we can always dial that back. And then here, we can kind of flesh this out a little bit more, it looks like. I kind of made that bone a little too pronounced maybe. And then these flexors, he's kind of got a muscle that kind of swings over a little bit here, but we're not going to muddy it too much. We'll just indicate some flexors here, and then the brachioradialis. There's actually two muscles there. I forget the name of the other one. You know what? Let's do this right. Bing, bong, boom, boing, bong. Brachioradialis and the extensor carpi radialis longus. So ridge muscles, as Proko would say. And go through there and kind of dial these in. So down the arm here. Now his biceps are shorter. We can always correct that as well. If we feel the proportions really aren't working that great. And kind of cut through here. All right, I think we're in decent shape. So body is at 456, arms are at 336, hands are at 668. Okay, so we'll put the body and the arms together. So body, arms, merge down, dynamesh these together, and now we can just kind of fix these little transitions here. Easy fix, no problemo. Speaking of no problemo, did you guys see Terminator Dark Fate? Because I did. I haven't been to the movies in forever, but I went and saw that one. Pretty neat. I'm gonna go through here, and we'll add this back in here. Okay, so that's been resolved a little bit. When you dynamesh to a higher resolution, how do you smooth out the facets from the low poly without losing some detail? You don't, but if you're dynameshing that far, you know, because like when I dynamesh this a little higher, you see, oh, there's a little bit of faceting here. It's not too big of a deal. You can always just go through and just smooth it out. But if you're already putting in like poor detail, you know, you're probably doing that a little bit prematurely. So you should have the ability to smooth, and you can even do a deformation smooth if you want to do it like an overall smooth. But yeah, don't prematurely go into like, what am I thinking of? Poor detail or freckles or anything like that too early. We're still in just kind of mass blockout phase here. Let's go ahead. I'm just gonna do a dumbed down pass on some of these muscles. I don't mind the forms being there, but the volumes look a little bit off. I kind of want to beef him up just a tad. So I'm going to dumb down the detail, but I'm also going to pump up the jam. And by jam, I mean volumes. All right, here, and then we go a little scapula, a little butt. There we go. And not that this is one thing. It's gonna be kind of awkward to talk about, I suppose. But when we go to put pants on this guy, it's gonna fit weird if there's not some volume right here. That's something I learned when I was working on Call of Duty stuff. Is when you're trying to make pants, you got to put male anatomy in there. You can't be super Ken doll. You don't have to be super realistic, but there does have to be something there in order for the pants to look right. Otherwise, they're gonna look off. And that's, you know, especially when you're using a cloth sim. You know, it's only going to simulate what's there, and if something's not there, you're just going to be like, why does this not look like my reference or the model here I'm looking at and trying to match the scan data or something like that, and then you realize, oh yeah, because I left out volume. It'll get you. All right. I think we're in good shape here. I think we're okay. I think we're moving right along. I'm excited. Now, these hands. Am I going to lose that much resolution if I merge that body onto these hands? Because I don't know if I'm ready to raise the resolution on this just yet. Am I? Maybe I am. Maybe I'm fretting too much. So at this resolution, we could start dialing in a little bit, indicating. Now, of course, he's Bacon Boy, so he's not. He's going to be kind of covered in fur, maybe, depending on how the surface treatment we want to do later. But also, this guy strikes me. He has very. Let's give him a little bit more Arnold style pecs. So these are more Bruce Lee style pecs. Arnold style pecs are going to be a little bit more heavy. Kind of mass those up a little bit here. Oh yeah, so anyway, Terminator 2 pretty much raised me. I was raised by Terminator 2 and Beetlejuice and the old Star Trek movies. Wrath of Khan, the one with the whales, etc. To me, Terminator 2 is just about the perfect movie. I mean, it's damn close. Again, child of the 90s. Formative films of my youth. And I would say, I gotta say, probably Dark Fate. I would say it's probably my third favorite. Not saying a whole lot, I guess, depending on how you view the other films. But, and again, I don't hate the other films or anything. There's some really cool stuff that happens in them. But at the end of the day, man, you can't touch Terminator 2. Give me a break. Even Terminator 1, like looking back, when I was a kid, Terminator 1 was a little intense. It was like, ooh, I like Terminator 2 better. But man, Terminator 1's a really good movie as well. So props to James Cameron, circa 94, for making pretty much the perfect movie. Now, when it comes to aliens, I have a real, back in the day, Alien I didn't really appreciate when I was a kid. I was a little too young. Predator, oh my god, Predator, amazing movie. Soundtrack, amazing. Handshakes, amazing. That's one of those like C movies or B movies that just turned into like, oh my god, this is amazing. RoboCop, that's another good one. Total Recall, go through my list of Arnold movies out of my head. Kindergarten Cop, Jingle All the Way, Junior. But yeah, not that RoboCop was an Arnold movie, but that's Paul Verhoeven. Who did Total Recall? The original Total Recall. We're going to find famous people scans. You can work for game companies or movies. They have finding famous people scans that you can actually have. That's going to be tougher, but you can make your own. You can start with a base body that's close to what you're looking for, and then just go grab reference, and then just load it in the Spotlight and kind of clean it up from there. But yeah, if you want like a scan of LeBron James, you should probably go work for Electronic Arts, EA, or you want scans of Keanu Reeves, then you can work on the next Matrix movie. You want a scan of Arnold, you can work on any number of the movies he's been on past forever. But yeah, famous people scans, I don't know that they just hand those out. Those are, I would imagine, some sort of trademark probably isn't the right word, but copyrighted licenses. That's their money maker, is their likeness. So they're very protective of that. And probably, I mean, I may be wrong. Maybe there's a repository of tons of celebrities, and celebrities are totally cool with it. But if I had to guess, I would say probably not. So now this Bacon Boy, I'm not sure if he's going to have like nasal labial folds or anything like that, but we can we can kind of guess. I'm going to knock this down. It's a little bit pointy for me, and I'm going to broaden this out. Just looking at the reference, this, and also this screenshot are my go-to reference guides. Now flare these out just a little bit. And you can go in here with your trim dynamic or even just your clay brush holding down Alt, and you can kind of knock back some of these edges here. Okay, so I think he's got kind of a ridge going around his nose maybe. We can even accentuate that holding down Alt. Kind of pop this out, and this might be where I need to go and find some actual, do I have any up? Some for real, what animal is he? Oh, here's a friendly one. Oh, how cute. Let me put this over here. That's a little bit better. Okay, so I've got this, and then these look like they're a little bit farther forward, but this looks like, stop. You know, we can probably merge these down, but since these are going to be separate tusks anyway, there's probably no point in merging those into the bottom teeth. Probably be a waste of time. They're going to be separate anyway, so we can just kind of... Oh! Okay. Bottom lip is going to kind of be affected by these bottom tusks here. And he's got a fairly pronounced... Like, this really wraps around. Let's go ahead and drop the intensity down just a bit. Kind of wraps around here. Go through here and maybe inflate this and maybe move this in. And he also has, so this is fairly pronounced right here. And again, clay brush or inflate brush. Kind of dial that in just a bit. And then back here, go in here with our clay brush and kind of, looks like he kind of has a pretty pronounced area right here. And I don't know if this is fat or fur, maybe a little bit of both. We'll go ahead and add that in. Let's go ahead and raise our intensity on our Smooth Stronger. If you didn't notice, I pretty much only use Smooth Stronger. It's another one of those things where your mileage may vary, but I prefer it. Gives me a little bit more leeway. And then here is just going to be where that connects, your occipital protuberance, and then these little ear flappies. You can have a little bit of fun with these maybe. He has rose ears, like my little Happy Staffy. She is actually, her name's Whiskey, and she looks like a kind of a pity mix, but she's mixed with Border Collie. We didn't know this until our DNA test, so we got her as a mutt at the pound, at the shelter, I should say. And she's mixed with Border Collie and Aussie Shepherd. So she is a highly driven snuggle butt, which kind of works. We have another dog that looks like a Border Collie, but her DNA test, she said she was Mexican street dog, and various other forms of just absolute mutt. That was literally what it said. It was like Mexican street dog was the option that it gave us. I'm not sure what that exactly means, but she looks just like a Border Collie. She's like white and fluffy. Not that Border Collies are white necessarily, but her kind of got ticking and markings and all that stuff. And you know what? Let's sell. It's getting a little bit too low res for that kind of detail. All right, I think we're ready here. So our head is at 640, hands at 6. Okay, I think 640 is going to be our magic number. So body to the top, hands to the top, head to the top. Merge, merge, dynamesh. Bam. Do a little bit of surgery here. And that was just holding down shift and shooting that bent up arrow to the top. And now we can go through and we can... Now at this stage, this is the stage where I would ZRemesher, because I'm not going to do anything major. I'm not going to all of a sudden like put a bunch of, make a bunch of crazy form changes. From here on out, I'm just kind of doing just general kind of changes. So how much time we got left? 10 minutes? Let's do it. Let's wrap this up. So here's our reference. Here's our guy. I think that'll work. So let's go ahead and we can hide him, or we can just delete him out of our scene if we want to. Any more integration we need to do? Yeah. Okay, so how do we go and start getting our low res? And it's also important to have a low res for your, you ZRemesh something so you can lower the resolution, so you have resolution history. So when you go to pose this guy later, it's a lot easier to pose than something that's like 10 million polygons. Although, something to consider, do I want to break this guy up along natural seam lines in order, because if I want to do blend shapes for his head, it might be nicer to have his head separate, and it could be separated along, he does have a necklace right exactly where I would want to put a seam line. So if we go through here and we hold down shift, let's hide this guy here. I know I got a necklace in here somewhere. His neck got a little fat for it. There it is. Transparency. Ooh boy. Yeah, we changed that quite a bit, didn't we? Let's go to unmatched mesh center. And we can always remake this. It's not that big of a deal. Can I do a mirror and weld on that? Yeah, let's do a mirror and weld on that. Close enough. X symmetry. So I may actually consider doing this. Let's think about this for a second. If I cut a seam line on that neck, and then I'm also probably going to cut a seam line along here for his legs, because a lot of this, I don't even need legs in here really. And when I go to do the claw simulation, yeah, because I'm not going to really need to have that there. Okay, so let's do that. So first things first, I'm going to grab the body here, and we're going to hit Control W, make this all one poly group, and I want to kind of guide where these cuts are going to happen, or though probably ZRemesher will do a fine job, but just in case, what we're going to do is we're going to hold down Control Shift, and we're going to slice a poly group right where we think we want that head geometry to go, and then, boy, these pants got thick. What happened there? Let's inflate these, deflate these. I guess I made him thinner. Oh, you know what I did? He was a lot more barrel-chested when we were starting. Now these are just pants blockout. Next, so Tuesdays I stream on Pixelogic's channel. This Thursday I'll stream on my channel. And we'll hop into Marvelous Designer. We got Marvelous Designer 9, GPU enhanced, although that's quite buggy. So we may not use a whole lot of GPU, but it certainly is faster once it caches. So we'll go through here and actually let's just do a uniform scale. Actually, that kind of worked. I don't even need to scale these that much. All right, lots better. Anyways, what was I doing? Oh yeah, so transparency mode. So for the body here, let's do another slice. Now slicing isn't mirrored, so you got to go through here, and we'll do a quick, we'll do a mirror across the X and then mirror and weld. So that's where the head's going to be sliced, and the body's going to be sliced. And if I wanted to get even more detailed, like I could go through here and make, you can, on my YouTube channel, there's like going through here and making like concentric rings around the eyes. I'm not so concerned about that at the moment. I can always change that later, but this is what I'm more concerned about. So let's take this one, we're going to duplicate them off, and we have X symmetry turned on, and we're going to say ZRemesher target polygon count of, say, maybe 16. It does size down quite a bit. Keep groups, smooth groups I don't need to smooth because they're already smooth because I sliced it, and then ZRemesher. So adaptive size, lowering it makes the quads more uniform and more square. Raising it, it builds in non-uniform or kind of squashed geometry around areas where there's major deformations in your geometry. So for clothing and stuff for your zero meshing, I might keep that higher, but this should work fine. Okay, so one thing I like to do too is I'll turn just these on. So we have, here's our low res mesh, and then here's our detailed mesh. I'm going to go do a projectile just to kind of make these things a little bit better. And then another thing we can do is, you know what, for this head, let's do a little bit of mesh reorg. So let's hold down Control Shift. I'm going to say select lasso right along here. Oh, it gave me a spiral. Well, we can fix that. So we'll fix that by going in here with slice. And again, we're going to slice right where that, and let's do this. Isolate this one. And then I'm seeing some things I want to change now, but don't change them yet. You can change them once you've got your details back. So, okay, we've got our wrist sliced, and again, mirror and weld, and we'll maintain that. So I want more resolution in the face and more resolution in the hands. So we can go down here to our, what am I looking for here? ZRemesher. And here we can say, use poly paint, so you can have a color density here. And by default, you know what, we can just go and fill this as white. So RGB, go to standard brush, RGB on, Z off, color, fill object, we're at white. If I want double the density, or if I want to raise that density up, it'll go through, and you can see as I change this, this color is changing. So if I want, like, you know, 1.9x the density, like for the head, and for the hands, I can just go to color, fill object with RGB turned on. And if I want less density, like for these legs, I can drop this density down and like maybe say 0.68. It gives me a little blue color, color, fill object. And then now when it ZRemeshes, it'll make this less dense. So for example, go through here and then say ZRemesh half. Now you're going to see my head and my hands are higher density, legs are lower density. Now this is if I want to make it all one mesh, which I may not want to do. I can pop these legs off at this point and just keep them a completely separate mesh. Let's see if that's worthwhile. Let's do a quick projectile. Yeah, you know what? I think that is worthwhile. So legs, right now I'm just going to go ahead and split those off. Upper body, we'll split those off and hide them. Now upper body is going to be a different story. I want to control this maybe a little bit more, although that's not bad. Let's do a half, another half with, again, our head and our hands at a higher density. Keep groups, ZRemesh half. Let's see if we still have that spiral there. You can fix spirals. It usually does it. Yeah, there we go. So it fixed our spiral. Usually if you want to fix spirals, just slice, and then between your slices, it'll give you a non-spiraled mesh. So there we go. So now we can go ahead and say project all. And then now we're ready to get our details back. However, I'm going to go ahead and cap this off. I don't want to have it single-sided. So we're going to go to close, convex hull. I hate single-sided meshes in ZBrush. I'm going to cap this off. Let's hit Control W. And while we're dividing this, we'll go ahead and say, you know, we don't need a crease polygroup. We'll isolate this one, and we'll just say crease. That's going to put a crease line around here, so as we subdivide, I'll keep that nice and crispy for me. So let's get our details back. So we're going to go into project all. It's under subtool project. Control D to subdivide, project all. And we can actually go into solo mode for this, so we can kind of see. So here's a little bit faceted. Control D to subdivide, project all. And now when we switch back and forth between our high res and our new mesh, looks the exact same. Now for the low res, it's going to be a different story. So let's go ahead and again, we'll just cap this. Control W. And then again, crease BG. And then we're just going to have our original high res showing and our low res showing. I can turn on solo and it'll still do it. So again, project all, Control D to subdivide, project all. Now if you're having problems with like anything in here projecting, you can just isolate this, project all, Control Shift direct, Control Shift tab to bring everything else back, Control D to subdivide, isolate, oops, isolate, project all, Control D to subdivide, isolate, project all, and there we go. So now again, go back and forth, looks the same. Don't need our original sculpt anymore. Delete! And then turn everything else back on. And now we have subdivision history for these two objects right here. Again, the legs are going to be separate. If I want to do a Marvelous Designer avatar with both the upper body and lower body, no problem. Just merge visible, and it'll make you your own copy out here. Just duplicate these off and merge them down and re-dynamesh it. ZRemesher or dynamesh it, decimate. You don't need that much resolution for a cloth sim. And then there you go. But now we can go through here, and now we have subdivision history. So we can drop down to like subdivision level 1. And we can make major changes like through here. This is kind of bugging me a bit. And then you can step back up, and then this is where you can go through and start adding your detail. So subdivision level 2, not too shabby. And we'll go through here. We can start dialing in maybe some of these flexor forms, and then maybe pronounce this a little bit. And then subdivision level 3, you got these details, and this is going to be where we start getting into more ligaments and oops, let's turn on Z-Add. More vein detail, stuff like that. Anyway, turn everything back on. Turn this guy off. We'll keep him around just for now. But yeah, so far so good. We've got a ZRemesh body. We can pose this guy out, all that good stuff. So, cool. This is Bebop from Turning Ninja Turtles. There we go. So we'll check his proportions next time. Maybe do a little bit of modeling. We'll go into, like I said, Marvelous Designer on. It's going to be Thursday on my channel, Pavmike, Twitch TV /Pavmike, or my YouTube channel. Just look up Pavlovich. You're talking about movies that you watch. Pacific Rim. I haven't. I watched a little bit of Pacific Rim. I need to catch up. I have a whole list of movies that have come out in the past couple of years, but Pacific Rim, Godzilla. Let me even see, like, what I missed. Joker. I missed It Part 2, missed John Wick 3. I never watched Speed Racer, Pet Sematary, Into the Spider-Verse I haven't seen yet. That's blasphemous, I know. Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. I'd never missed a Tarantino movie, and I definitely did. Dread I still haven't seen. Yeah, Us I want to see. So I'm playing catch up. But anyways, awesome. Thanks, everybody. Like I said, this Thursday, I'll be on Pavmike channel, and you can watch me there. But before we do that, let's save this block out. I don't want to lose any information. And catch you guys next time. Let's see. Where's my OBS? There it is.